Okay, at this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Everyone, please rise for the flag salute, please. I
I
pledge
pledge
allegiance
allegiance to
to
the
the
flag
flag,
of the United
United
States of
States of America,
America and
to the
to the
republic
republic for which it
which stands
stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty and
and justice
justice for all.
for all.
time. I would like to call for a moment of silence for Mr. Corrado and Tina La Rosa, who our community lost in a tragic car accident. Thank you. Um, this time, I'm going to give the route of egress to everyone in the room. In the event of an emergency, all people may exit right or left from this room and proceed to an exit door. All doors will open from the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Haledon Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published in the North Jersey Herald News, official newspaper, on January 12, 2020 and October 26, 2020. On October 26, 2020, notice of in-person and the remote access to this virtual meeting was also published. Notices of this meeting indicating date, time, and place were posted publicly on the door of the main entrance to the school and filed with the clerk in the municipality of Haledon. Roll call, please.
Ms. Diaz. Is he here? Okay. Mrs. Fisher.
Here.
Mrs. Isa.
Here.
Mr. Jacquez. Mr. Martinez.
Here.
Mr. Moxo. Mrs. Perez.
Here.
Mr. Ramadan.
Here.
And Mr. Guzman.
Have a motion to accept adoptions.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Moxo, second by Mrs. Perez. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Mrs. Isa.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Moxo.
Yes.
Mrs. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan.
Yes.
And Mr. Guzman.
Yes. Do we have a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ramadan, second by Mr. Moxo. And a roll call.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Mrs. Isa.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Moxo.
Yes.
Mrs. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan.
Yes.
And Mr. Guzman.
Yes. Do we have a motion to approve prior minutes? I'm sorry. Yes. Do we have a motion to approve prior minutes?
Yes.
So, yeah, second.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Martinez, second by Mr. Moxo. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Mrs. Isa.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Moxo.
Yes.
Mrs. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan.
Yes.
And Mr. Guzman.
I have a motion to open up the public portion to hear citizens on agenda items only.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Isa,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Moxo,
Yes.
Mrs. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Guzman.
Right, the floor is now open for anyone that wants to address the Board of Education on agenda items only. Okay, seeing no one, do we have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Isa,
Yes.
Mr. Jacques,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Moxo,
Yes.
Mrs. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Guzman.
Again, on behalf of the Board of Education, I want to extend my deepest condolences to the Corrado family, I mean to La Rosa family, I'm sorry, for the loss of Corrado and Tina La Rosa. Um, that's something that our community definitely affected our community. We're still in mourning. It's going to be a tremendous loss to our district. Um, as everyone knows, it's not a secret that I was an advocate of going hybrid because we had to weigh what was going on in the homes versus everyone's safety, and obviously safety comes first. But at the same time, we still have parents that really wanted to see their children here at school. So we felt that if we can safely do it, then we would do it. And ultimately, the board decided to do it. And one of the main reasons
Why?
that
Why?
we felt comfortable in doing that, doing our hybrid program, was because we knew that Mr. Corrado um, was going sanitized at all times. And so we got to continue working with one another, being there for one another, and pushing forward. It's not easy when we have to explain.
I was just joking.
We can't hear you.
I couldn't hear anything you just said, George.
Is that because of my mask, maybe?
It might be the microphone.
Yeah.
Definitely not muted.
I just started hearing you better just now, George.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Again, on behalf of the Board of Education, I want to extend my deepest condolences to the La Rosa family on the loss of Tina and Corrado La Rosa. Corrado is definitely going to be missed in our district. Um, Everyone that knew him knew he was such a good person, and so was Tina. Tina was always right there by his side. I knew both of them for many years, and it's a tremendous loss to our district. It's not a secret that I was an advocate and moving forward with a hybrid program, provided we can safely open our school. And one of the reasons felt confident in doing that is because we knew that Corrado was going to lead the way in making sure that our school was sanitized and safe for our students, faculty, and staff. It's going to be a tremendous loss. He's going to be very hard to replace. And I just ask that everyone continues to be there for one another. Life is too short. And just know that that our board definitely extends our thoughts and prayers to the La Rosa family. I want to thank Mr. Waka for immediately calling for a emergency cabinet meeting that Sunday. Um, you know, that Saturday night I was home. I was watching a movie, and I get a phone call that they need me at a serious motor vehicle crash with injuries. So I know it had to be serious if they're gonna call me in to work. So when I got there, the last thing that I thought I was gonna see someone who I consider a friend, both of them, um, in the manner in which I saw them. And I just want everyone to know that I saw firsthand the officers doing everything they possibly could, the fire department, the the ambulance, the paramedics, and it was definitely sad situation. Um, but nevertheless, we will continue to move forward as a district because that's what Corrado and Tina would want. And I just ask that everyone remain strong. And again, Mr. Walker, thank you so much for for being there for the family. Um, and as everyone saw, the GoFundMe, we they was district was able to raise enough money to cover funeral expenses. Um, the outpouring of love and support from all the teachers from both Heldon Public and Manchester was overwhelming. It was awesome, and that's what our district is all about. And that shows that we are filled with many great people from all walks of life, and it's definitely a honor and a privilege to serve as your board president. Um, Again, our thoughts and prayers are with the La Rosa family. Mr. Corrado is gonna be nearly impossible to replace. Thank you, Mr. Waka.
Thank you, Board President Guzman. You guys can all hear me?
Yes.
Um, a great deal has certainly happened at and around HPS since our last board meeting. This report's going to be a bit longer than normal to reflect all the important things that have occurred in just the last few weeks. I want to begin by reflecting the tragic passing of our lead custodian, Mr. LaRosa, Corrado LaRosa, and his wife, Tina. This was an incredibly difficult loss, not only for HPS, but for the entire community of Haledon. We miss Corrado now, and we're going to continue to miss Corrado for a long time because he was such an incredibly important figure to so many lives. I want to thank the entire community for their generosity by helping out with the GoFundMe collection that was aimed at helping the La Rosa family offset the end of life costs that the family expected to incur. We set a goal of $21,345 as this was the cost of the funeral and other related services, and the community overwhelmed us by donating over $24,800 to this cause. I know that the family was deeply, deeply touched by this gesture, and they've expressed their deep gratitude to all members of our community that were able to give during this incredibly difficult time. I know there have been many questions and ideas regarding how we may want to go about creating some sort of tribute or memorial for Corrado at HPS. The short answer is that we absolutely will look to do something that reflects our appreciation for Corrado and all he meant to us. With that said, we're going to look to take our time with this so that we can make sure that whatever it is we end up doing is done correctly, is done in a manner that includes input from his family, and is set to be completed in a time when we are in a different stage of the grieving process. I look back at what happened when we tragically lost a second grader to asthma a few years back, and I think it turned out to be the right decision to spend a few months planning on how we memorialize Caleb's passing. And as a result, when springtime came and we were in a better position, to create the amazing walk to honor Caleb's life and dedicate a buddy bench in our playground to honor his spirit of inclusion and friendship. Within the next few weeks, I will look to create a team which will include members of Corrado's family to come together to discuss what we would like to do as a school to honor Corrado. I'm sure that whatever project we choose to undertake will be beautiful and will honor Corrado in a way that would make him as proud of us or as we are proud of him. Next, I want to talk about how we will go about doing all that we can do to continue to make our school a safe place where the virus is highly unlikely to spread, despite not having Corrado's help. In tonight's meeting, I'll be asking that we appoint Bill Spanos as the acting lead custodian and that this position be shared with Manchester just as Corrado's position was. Mr. Spanos has done an admirable job filling in these past few weeks, and I think it would be wise for us to keep this position in-house considering the pandemic we are facing. I've consulted with John Pigley, who's acting as the Manchester superintendent, and I'm pleased to report we both felt the same exact way, that this was the correct decision. We will look to reopen this position towards the end of the school year. Obviously, if Mr. Spanos has a good experience with the position and all parties involved wish to keep him in this role, that will speak very well towards his candidacy to this position. Nonetheless, we thought it best that this be an acting position so that Mr. Spanos would get a better feel for the responsibilities of the position. We all know that Corrado was incredibly skilled at his job. In fact, I had lost quite a bit of sleep over the summer trying to decide if I would recommend that we open schools with a hybrid model or utilize the school-wide remote-only model that other districts have used. One of the main reasons I felt confident we could open and prevent virus spread was because Corrado was on our planning team. And I knew that Corrado's planning would help keep us as safe as possible. Therefore, I do not think we could simply just replace Corrado, especially now when I know that right now the most important part of my job is ensuring that the virus does not spread within our school building. Therefore, I have decided to recommend to the board that we hire an additional custodian position. Bill Spanos will be replaced by our substitute custodian, and I'll be also recommending that Mr. Tom Baker, a local Halden resident and fire department leader, be selected to serve as an additional custodial spot pending fingerprint approval and successful completion of his physical examination. I expect he will start working for us very soon, as I know he has scheduled both his physical exam and his fingerprints. Fiscally, we are operating under budget by a fairly strong margin right now, and this additional hire will not in any way cause us to have to go over budget, nor will we need to borrow from our reserves. In fact, I believe we will finish the school year in a very strong position fiscally. Speaking of safety, I am pleased to report the state of New Jersey has given us 1,820 youth-sized face masks and 788 adult-sized face masks. We will pick them up later in this week at PCTI, which is their distribution point. So thank you, State of New Jersey, for helping us with this important PPE purchase. On tonight's agenda, I am also proposing a phase 2 of our restart plan. This plan is pretty simple in that all aspects of phase 1 will remain constant, save for the following structural modification. Based on a survey we made available via robocall that we sent home 6 times, 4 times in English and twice in Spanish. We're also emailing parents and posting on Facebook several times. We asked parents to express if they'd like their child to attend HPS every single day. It was not promised that this request would be granted, but we would use this data as an important metric to determine how we would go about creating our phase 2. In phase 2, all pre-K, kindergarten, first, and second grade families that wish to have their child attend every single week, every single day, will be given the opportunity to do so. Based on the data we receive from our survey, we know that we can still do this without having to worry about social distancing in any way for any of those aforementioned grades. Ms. Costello, our guidance counselor for this age group, did a terrific job making it so that even when we push in students for our autism or our multiple disabilities classes, we will not have social distancing problems for these grade levels. In fact, only one class in these grades will come close to social distancing issues in that they will have 11 students. But this is a second grade class, and we expect that when we begin getting teachers back from leaves, We may very well look to use one of these teachers to create an additional grade 2 classroom so we can further reduce class sizes in this grade. It's also important to note that although we have students that are technically still part of our hybrid plan, many of these families have decided to keep their children home the past few weeks. This is fine for us as we can still provide them with remote instruction. So it's very likely that the few classes that we have that'll have even 10 or the one class with 11 students will not see that full amount. I know it's also important to recognize the importance of community structure when creating new programs. We know that HPS is a walking district, and we know that it's common for older brothers or older sisters to walk their siblings to school. Therefore, in this phase, we will allow older siblings of pre-K through second grade students to attend class every day as well. By no means will these additional third through eighth graders have any impact on our ability to social distance. We also know that families have structures whereby the older cousin may live with them or walk their children to school. We will work those out on a case-by-case basis. This plan will set to go in effect on November 17th. Um, we're also pleased to that at least 3 board members were able to come for tours over the past few weeks. Board President Guzman, Board President Diaz, Board Vice President Diaz, and Board Member Isa all came separately for tours of our building so they could observe firsthand what our hybrid and remote operation looks like from a student's and a teacher's perspective. I know that administratively, and I really believe this, we are so proud of the amazing work and efforts of our teaching and our support staff. And the invitation is offered to all board members that would ever like to come into the building and see what things are like. I want to give everyone a quick COVID-19 update. On Monday, we learned that 3 students had tested positive for COVID-19. Today, we learned that 2 more had tested positive, but I just saw in an email about an hour ago that those 2 were false positives. So the majority of the students were remote-only students, and none of the students that were hybrid were even in the building during the month of November. At the last Passaic County Superintendent's meeting, we see that a really big chunk of virus spread for school-age students is directly related to youth sports programs. Personally, I do have a son that plays sports, but I know that many of the cases that we have seen statewide and as well as Halden have the element of youth sports as a common factor. With that said, I want to thank our staff, our custodians, our students, and our parents for helping ensuring that HPS is not a place where the virus is able to spread. I am proud of how seriously we're all taking the mask mandate, the hand washing mandate. And I'm proud that our staff are doing an extremely great job communicating to our nurse and our admin team whenever they or their students are experiencing any kinds of problems. It takes everyone going above and beyond to prevent virus spread within our building, and I want to thank everyone for doing a great job. Last but not least, I'm proud to say that our Chromebooks have finally arrived after a long last. It may have taken 8 months to finally receive them, but we are happy nonetheless. We received these Chromebooks blank, which means that we need to install browsers on every device. This will take some time. At our cabinet meeting tomorrow, our goal will be to create and communicate a plan to begin the distribution process for these devices. I expect that within 48 hours, this plan will be communicated to all families. And I expect that early next week, we will begin our Chromebook distribution process to pre-K through first grade students. And I want to end by once again thanking Corrado for all he's done and wishing the students that are remote that had positive COVID a speedy and healthy recovery. Thank you.
Can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I said I want to thank Mr. Walker for his detailed report. And also, I just want to echo something real quick. As we all know, we have this hybrid model going. And we know the teachers union came to us and gave us, obviously their thoughts on it. And we had a tough decision to make, which is obviously doing the hybrid model. And I just want to commend our teachers because despite us making that decision, our teachers are here every single day getting the job done. And we really appreciate that so much. I just wanted to share that with everyone.
And President, if I could just jump in and echo off
Go ahead.
that, I don't anticipate we're going to have a phase 3 anytime soon. I think phase 2 is where we're going to sit for a very long time. The ideology behind the phase 2 was that our littlest kids are the ones that are probably struggling the most. So we wanted to kind of go above and beyond to help them. I'm satisfied with the amazing efforts of our students and our staff for all grades. But I do not expect that we're going to look to expand for a phase 3 anytime soon.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Okay, Business Administrator, Mr. Sarapiglio.
Thank you. To go over some of the resolutions on the agenda tonight. We have on the agenda looking to approve technology overtime rates. This is to cover board meetings. Just to, make sure that that's approved by the Board of Education. Obviously, we have our technology staff at all of our board meetings now as we've gone remote, or we have the remote aspect to it. For all the board members, we have on the agenda approvals of the NJSBA workshop. Please make sure to abstain on your own resolution. So just pay attention. It's between 9.2 and 9.10. We have on the agenda tonight, we are looking to approve the preschool plan. This is the first phase of the approval process for the 2021-22 school year. We're also looking at approving revised aftercare rates. We had a meeting today, the Community Engagement Committee meeting. We're receiving funding from full pay, actually, from the state of New Jersey through December. With that additional money, and again, it could even extend further, but for right now, it's through December. We've looked at the numbers, and what we've decided to do was pass those savings on to the residents of Haledon. We're going to be offering reduced aftercare rates. It's $50. It's on the agenda for tonight. For those individuals who have already paid the full amounts for September and October, this is actually going to be retroactive. Mr. Torito will actually be offering credits to those members of the public who have already paid, so that they won't have to worry about the payments for November and December. On the agenda tonight, we're also looking for approving Altice, which is an upgrade to our internet service. The E-rate application actually reopened due to COVID, as many school districts are obviously going with some aspect of a remote learning. We're actually doubling our internet service in terms of connections out to the internet, and they'll be doing that. The start date is December 1st for the upgrade. We are also looking under finance to approve a revised parental contract for transportation. We're looking to approve capital projects, dollar amounts at least for the capital projects. This is something that we do every year for our audit. And speaking of the audit, that they should be wrapping that up soon. They were in really for the most part, not in, but working remotely with us for our 2019-2020 audit. They're just currently waiting on some information from the state. We hope to have an audit presentation on the agenda for our first meeting in December. We are also in the midst of doing some of our fall reports, ASSA, which is our student count, our DRTRS, which is our transportation accounts. We also, per the governor and then some regulations that have come out in regards to board meetings, as you'll notice, we had a little more verbiage at the beginning of our meetings. The state of New Jersey has deemed it that unless there is declared another emergency, we are to open up our board meetings to the public with no more than 25 individuals in a room. We've done some policies to basically account for this. We've asked to have anyone interested in attending meetings to contact the board secretary, which is myself, basically to, almost request attendance for them. This is due to the fact that, not everybody can have access to the internet. It also speaks to some of the new ways that we're going to allow questions to be asked. Obviously, we've always had Zoom meetings, which had a dial-in aspect to it, but not board, but the public is allowed to actually email questions prior to the meeting on any questions that they might have to my offices as well. I wanted to congratulate Mr. Ramadan for his appointment or his uh, winning the election for council. We've actually already talked. He's going to miss out on this budget cycle, which we have on the agenda tonight. The budget approval. I'm sure he's very upset about that. But like I said, he will be missed. But he's already told me that he'll be around. So, and just to reiterate what everyone else has been saying, Corrado was a good friend of mine. He was also, I worked with him for 9 years here, and a lot of the stuff the reason why the building looks so good, and the reason why the building is the way it is because of him. Even pre-COVID, we were able to do a lot of stuff really on a shoestring budget, and it wasn't because we didn't have the money. It's just Corrado was very conscientious about how monies were spent, and he was. Once we started kind of got the hang of it, we started doing projects that, in other districts I might have, reached out to the architect for, or, had somebody else kind of paid them a consulting fee to take care of that. So, Corrado was always thinking about this place and, how to make it better. So again, he made me look good in front of all, really in front of everyone. So, we're going to miss him. I know the entire community is going to miss him and Tina. She was, they always fit so well together, I always thought. And, I think, but the biggest thing I'm going to miss is, walking around the building with him and, how he could just bust chops with every single person in the building. He had basically an inside joke with everybody. And I knew when Corrado was coming, if I was talking to somebody, he was coming up from behind me because I could see it in somebody's eye that, they got a twinkle in there. So, it's really going to be missed, that aspect of it, because he really, really made this place better and, physically, but also, like I said, emotionally. And, you know, like I said, we've said a lot about him, but, it's going to be missed. He's my friend, and we're going to be better, worse off without him. That's the end of my report.
It's very rare when you would deliver a report that you wouldn't mention Corrado. You know, personnel and management. Mr. Ramadan, can't think you're muted or
Can you hear me now?
yep.
Yeah.
No. We met today, and we just discussed the new hires and whatnot, and it's just agenda items only.
Finance and physical plan, Mr. Ramadan.
Agenda items only. We met also on signed bills. Also want to echo the sentiments of everyone else. Corrado was a um, great custodian, great leader, and someone that will be missed tremendously throughout the community and within this district. That's all for me.
Curriculum and technology, Mrs. Izo. Policy, Mrs. Perez. Think you're muted or your mask.
Oh, sorry. So we met before this meeting. We spoke about agenda items.
Security and safety, Mrs. Fisher.
Yes, we met earlier this evening regarding the restart program that we're going to be going into phase 2,
and the other is going to be agenda items only.
Thank you. Community engagement, Mr. Moxo.
Actually, we met today and discussed the great savings for anyone that participated in the after-school care program. Um, the reduced pricing that's going to be offered, and agenda items only.
Okay,
And
thank
there
you.
isn't any on the agenda, so.
Staying County, Ms. Fisher.
Yes, December 7th, there will be a county meeting. I think that Lois sent around a sign up for everyone who'd like to attend. It is going to be virtual
Thank you.
and nothing for state right now.
Okay, moving on the agenda, personnel management. I'm sorry, Mr.
Move
Ramadan.
items 8.1 through 16.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Ramadan, second by Mr. Moxo. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Isa,
Yes.
Mr. Jacquez,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez, Mr. Moxo,
Yes.
Mrs. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Guzman.
Yes. Curriculum and technology.
Before I move agenda items, I did have one question about the pre-K program plan. There is discussion at length about an early childhood advisory council that should include external stakeholders as well as people from the staff. But right now on that roster, there's only staff members. So I'm wondering if at least parents will be included on that advisory council at some point.
Sure. Pat, would you mind unmuting Mr. Torito, and Jeff could take that question?
Yes, actually, that may have been an oversight because yes, there are supposed to be parents on there. That's something I'll have to look into to rectify that. Usually, what happens is we submit this initial plan, and then we go over it with our liaison from the state, and at that time we make any changes to it that are necessary.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Torito.
great. Yeah, I think parents' input will be valuable for that committee or that council. Thank you. Okay, and then I move items 9.1 through 9.13.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Second by Mr. Moved by Mrs. Isa, second by Mr. Moxo. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes, abstain on 9.3.
Mrs. Isa,
Yes, and abstain on 9.5.
Mr. Jacquez,
Yes, and I'm extending 9.6. I believe that's one for me.
yep, Mr. Martinez,
Yes, and abstain 9.3 for me.
Mr. Moxo,
Yes. Abstain from 9.8.
Mrs. Perez,
Yes. I'm going to abstain from 9.9.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes, and abstaining on 9.10.
Miss Diaz. You there? Just gotta... Bill, is she there? Is she muted?
She was on before.
Oh. Can we unmute her?
I sent a request to her.
Yeah, I did too. Look, here she is.
There goes.
Well, there's a video.
If you could just unmute yourself, Ms. Diaz, if you have that option.
There you go.
I just did.
Yep.
Wait, because I have two stuff here. Hold on. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody.
You yesing on the resolution?
This is for
Curriculum.
curriculum, and I think you have to abstain on which one is it, Mr. B?
I have to look. Let me see.
9.2.
9.2.
Okay, so I'm going to say yes and abstain on 9.2.
Yes. And Mr. Guzman.
Yes, abstain on 9.4. Okay, moving on to policy.
10.1 and 10.3 through 10.3.
10.1. She's moving 10.1 through 10.3. Was
Yes.
seconded by Mr.
Second.
Moxo. Okay, and roll call.
Ms. Diaz. Did she yes? I didn't hear her.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Mrs. Isa.
Yes.
Mr. Jacques.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Moxo.
Yes.
Mrs. Perez. Mr. Ramadan.
Yes.
And Mr. Guzman.
Yes. Moving on to security and safety.
Okay, I'd like to move 11.1 and 11.2.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Fisher, second by Mr. Ramadan, and roll call.
Ms. Diaz.
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Mrs. Isa.
Yes.
Mr. Jacques.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Moxo.
Yes.
Mrs. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan.
Yes.
And Mr. Guzman.
Yes. Finance and physical plant.
Move items 13.1 through 13.20.
Second.
I have a question. The internet service agreement, is that what's going to expand us?
Yes.
Okay, I know you spoke about it. You spoke about it already. So you said it's going to double.
Yes.
What exactly does that mean?
Bill?
I mean, it's going to be the pipe's going to be bigger, so we're going to have better access to the internet from the school.
From the school. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Awesome. And especially all the
Bill,
live
will that,
streaming and everything.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry,
Go ahead,
will
Mrs.
that
Lee.
help connection for remote students? I know some students were having, there was like a lag or it's like slow. Will that help that at all?
It depends. I mean, if it's on their end that they're, they're wireless at their house, that's not going to help. Our internet's not going to help.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, very good. Roll call, please.
Ms. Diaz. She said
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Fisher.
Yes.
Mrs. Isa.
Yes.
Mr. Jacques.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Moxo.
Yes.
Mrs. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan.
Yes.
And Mr. Guzman.
I'm going to abstain on the 13.11, and my vote is yes.
Okay.
Any new or old business? Mrs. Fisher.
Yes. I'd like to also talk about Corrado and Tina. And I'm very pleased to see that something will be set up in memorial to them. As in the past here at Haledon Public School, when we've lost a staff member or we've had named something after a staff member to remember all the good things that they've done for the district and one of them being Mario Lucaro, who was our former shop teacher, Ed Graff, who was a longtime board member, Anita Mulligan, who was our former librarian. Selma Maskery is also named after, the library is named after her. Marjorie Stansfield and Absalom Grundy. And I really think that it's a tribute to Tina and Corrado to put them there because they were a big part of our town and they will always be remembered. And also, we were talking, you had talked earlier about Caleb Vandervoort. We have also in the past put a memorial plaque or done something for students. And basically it was Jennifer Martin, James Susan, William Scheiblin, and Katie Zakowski, and now Caleb. And these people are all a big part of our Halden family. And thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher.
Um, uh, George, may I?
Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to echo what Ellen said and what everybody has said about Corrado and Tina. It was so sad because that time of the year was when we used to go to Atlantic City and just like hang out with them, and that's how we got to know each other and talk about even family issues and have amazing conversations about school and the amazing community that we have. So for me, this has been such a great loss, and this sadness is so big. And I know that everybody's feeling this way, but it's just very important for me to say this because it's something that we're carrying, and yeah, we're grieving, and yeah, we all grieve in different ways, but this is beyond crying. This is beyond saying that they were good people, because we all know that. And I think that honoring them will fill that space there that we are all yearning right now. That's basically it.
I'd like to add something. I didn't know Corrado as long as many of you have, and I didn't know Tina, but I've heard wonderful things about her. But I think this is a testament to Corrado's character. When I became the PTA president, he gave me he gave me his cell number, and he said, "If you need anything, just text me." And that held true when we needed help picking up merchandise from the dollar store for the holiday shop, or to move tables or anything. I could just reach out to him, and he was there, and he took care of it. So I think that, is such a testament to his character. And, he's such a big part of HPS. It is a terrible, terrible loss.
I think it's important that as a team, if we're going to remember Corrado and his wife, I guess by doing or mirroring what they did, since it seems like everything was positive, I think it helps us unite as a fort together. Even our students, right? So if we bring that to our students, be examples of what they did, and continue that, it's nothing but good stuff can come out of it.
I just want to share a story, just kind of, I guess, to um, just to demonstrate, Mr. Corrado's character and his dedication to our district. I think I can't put any better than this. So, as everyone knows, we have one small park in Helden, right? The Rose Street Park. Everybody knows that, right? But we also have a little park here, right here on our school campus, right? So that park was always locked up all the time. So several years ago, Mr. Jeff Fisher, he brought up at a board meeting, he goes, "Why can't we open the park? Let's give it a try. Let's open the park, on the weekends and this and that." and which was a great suggestion by Mr. Fisher. He says, you know, let's open the park for the kids. Why is it closed? So I think I forget who brought it up, but it's like, okay, who's gonna open up the park on the weekends? There's nobody here. And Corrado volunteered. He go, you know, Colorado pretty much put his hands up and said I'll do it. You know, so on the weekends he would come on his time or his own time. You know, whether he was walking his dog or whatever he was doing, he would open the park for the kids. You know, and I think that that's just one little example of the things Corrado did for our district and for our children. And like I said, you know, you don't see things like that anymore. You know, so it's a rare breed, and it's going to be very hard to replace. And you know, Miss Cartagena at the cabinet meeting that Mr. Walker had called for, she said that her last conversation with him was about you know, the boiler. Oh my God, I got to come in on Sunday to check the boiler. You know, because he was going to be getting ready for a cold week, and that was Corrado, ladies and gentlemen. That was Corrado. So he's going to be missed, and so will Tina. So, thank you. Do we have a motion to open the public portion to hear citizens who wish to address the Board of Education?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. Martinez, second by Mr. Moxo. Roll call, please.
Ms. Diaz,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Isa,
Yes.
Mr. Jacques,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Moxo,
Yes.
Mrs. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Guzman.
Yes. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the board? See here. Okay. Do we have a motion to close the public portion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Diaz,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Isa,
Yes.
Mr. Jacques,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Moxo,
Yes.
Mrs. Perez, Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Guzman.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So
Moved
move.
by, moved by Mrs. Fisher, second by Mr. Ramadan. Roll call, please.
Ms. Diaz,
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Isa,
Yes.
Mr. Jacques,
Yes.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Moxo,
Yes.
Mrs. Perez, Mr. Ramadan,
Yes.
and Mr. Guzman.
Yes. Everyone have a good Thanksgiving. Make sure you practice social distancing. Wash your hands frequently. Okay. Our next board meeting is when, Mr. Secretary?
December. Hold on, let me look at the dates.
Mr. Waka,
It might be the seventh, because I know Miss Hella was going to be joining us at our next board meeting. So
Okay.
we'll be meeting before that as a group. But I know that's the first one in December she's coming.
I think it's the 8th.
Mr. Waka, for the week of Thanksgiving, do we have?
Yeah, so I probably forgot to say that the week of after Thanksgiving, we're going to be school-wide remote only. That was a recommendation brought to me by our two union leaders, and we thought it was a a no-brainer idea to do that.
Thank you. Um, very good. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a safe Thanksgiving. Enjoy.